Hey volleyball fans, Rob St. Clair here from the European Volleyball Show, previewing Pool D of EuroVolley 2021 Women. This is our last video before the tournament starts. It's right around the corner. Very, very excited for us to be able to stop talking about the tournament and start watching the tournament. But first, we're going to talk about Pool D, go through all 6 teams, their individual histories in the European Championships, their histories against one another, and then I'll make some picks at the end. I'll do my projected MVP, who I think is going to be a breakout player in this pool, my spotlight match to watch, and then I will predict the finishings 1 through 6 and see how they hold up. So let's get into it. Starting off with Romania, the hosts of Pool D. I encourage you all to check out the preview video we did for Romania specifically. But hosting this tournament, we can talk more about their history in the European Championships, hosting in Cluj-Napoca. This is their 26th participation in the European Championships. They've only finished on the podium once, all the way back in 1963. Historically, Romania has appeared in more European Championship tournaments than any other team without winning one. So that is their goal this time around, and we talked about it a little bit in the Romania preview video. This is definitely a team on the rise. In EuroVolley 2019, Romania finished 13th. They made it out of pools to the round of 16 before they were beaten in straight sets by the eventual champions in Serbia. At the European Championships, Romania's lost each of their last 5 versus the Netherlands after beating them the first 8 times in history. So a streaky history between those two teams. I'm excited to see that particular match this time. It has been all the way since 1989 that Romania has beaten one of their Pool D opponents this year in the European Championships. They beat both Finland and Turkey in '89, but haven't had very much success since. So a nice bounce back opportunity hosting this pool for the Romanian women. Moving on, our next team in Pool D, the fan favorites from Turkey. Their 10th consecutive appearance at the European Championships and their 15th all-time, finishing on the podium 4 times. Second place in 2003 and of course in 2019, and third in 2011 and 2017. Only 2 teams have reached the semifinals in each of the last 3 European Championships. That would be Turkey and of course the 2-time reigning champions from Serbia. So elite company for the Turkish women here. Of Turkey's last 14 European Championship matches, they have only lost 3. However, all 3 of them have been to Serbia. So they're 11-0 against all European opponents that are not Serbia in the European Championships, their last 14 matches. So they have their eyes set on a victory here in Pool D. Speaking of Turkey's opponents in Pool D, on their way to the final match in 2019, Turkey beat Finland 3-2 in the group stage and the Netherlands 3-2 in the quarterfinals. Turkey also has a 100% winning record all-time in the European Championships against Finland, with 3 wins, and Sweden and Ukraine with 1 win over each. In the 2021 Volleyball Nations League, the 2 highest placing European teams were Turkey, who won the bronze medal, and the Netherlands, who finished in 7th. The Turkish team are the only Europeans to finish on the podium in the VNL ever since the tournament's inception, 2nd place in 2018 and 3rd in 2021 this year. Even more recently than that, Turkey finished in 5th at the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. They, of course, lost 15-13 in a really tight deciding set against Korea in the quarterfinals, which, like I mentioned in the Turkey team preview, was a little bit of a disappointment for them. I expect them to rebound from that Olympic performance, just missing out on the podium, to have a very strong showing here in Pool D and push for another European Championships semifinal berth. Moving on to the Netherlands. The Dutch women have competed in 28 of the 31 European Championships all time, winning the title when they hosted the tournament in 1995. The Dutch have also been runners-up on 4 occasions, 1991, 2009, 2015, and 2017, in addition to a bronze in 1985. So some pretty high-ranking recent history for the Dutch women. In 2019 EuroVolley, the Netherlands finished in 5th, and all 7 of their matches were decided in straight sets. 6 victories, including 1 against Romania, followed by a 3-0 exit to Turkey in the quarterfinals, like we mentioned. The Netherlands, with not very much good recent history against the Turkish women, losing in the 2019 European Championships and in VNL 2019 and 21. And in those 3 matches, the Dutch have only won 1 set over the Turkish. So I'm very excited for that match in particular, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Moving on in Pool D to the Ukraine, playing in their 9th European Championship and their best all-time result being bronze in their competition debut all the way back in 1993. In EuroVolley 2019, the Ukraine finished in 17th, just missing out on qualifying for the elimination stage. Their win in straight sets in the final pool game against Portugal ended a run of 11 consecutive defeats in the competition. Historically, for the Ukraine against their Pool D opponents, a little bit of a mixed bag. They are winless all time in the European Championships against the Netherlands and Turkey, but are undefeated all time against Romania, beating them twice in the 1990s. Our 5th team in Pool D, Finland, participating in the European Championships for the 4th time after playing in 1977, 89, and 2019. So a big gap in between their last participations before returning 2 years ago. Finland are only 2 of 19 all-time at the European Championships, beating West Germany in 1977 and beating France 3-1 in 2019. So a little bit of confidence coming into this tournament for the Finns. Last but not least in Pool D is Sweden, who end a 38-year absence from the European Championship tournament, returning this year. Their 3 previous appearances were in 1967, 1971, and 1983. None of those finishes which were very good. Sweden 3 of 22 all-time in the tournament. All 3 victories were in 1971 against England, Denmark, and Austria. So pretty much ancient history at this point. But as we'll talk about in just a second, I have pretty high aspirations for Sweden this time around. Let's move on to my picks for Pool D. My projected MVP might surprise some of you, and I'm going to go with Isabelle Haak, the superstar Swedish opposite. A big reason why Sweden is making another appearance in the European Championships after all this time. And even despite the set load that she's expected to take for the Swedish national team in order for them to have success, I expect her to produce at that level for them to make it out of pools. I'll get to my predictions for the whole pool in just a second, but I expect Isabelle Haak to be so good that she might single-handedly be able to carry Sweden to the round of 16. I think that's the caliber of player that she is. So high expectations for Haak and the Swedish women in EuroVolley 2021. My breakout player that I expect to come out of Pool D with some serious fireworks. Speaking of opposites that take on a massive set load, Alexia Kaurtsashu of Romania, the 18-year-old left-hander who we talked about extensively in the Romania team preview. I just want to reiterate that I really expect her to have a breakout tournament. We've seen her just light it up on the stat sheet and on the club level, playing for her Turkish club team this past offseason. Now, turning 18, nothing to focus on but professional volleyball, and playing at home really for the first major international competition for the Romanian women's national team. I expect Alexia Kaurtsashu to have a big tournament. Watch out for her. The match I want to spotlight in Pool D, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, the Netherlands versus Turkey on August 24th. Like I said, the Netherlands not with very much good recent history against Turkey, trying to avenge their knockout stage loss to the Turkish from 2019. I expect this match to be really competitive, and I think it'll have a lot to do with who ends up winning this pool. And we'll get to my predictions in just a second, but definitely put on your calendars, Netherlands versus Turkey, August 24th. All right, nothing left to do now but predict Pool D. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up towards who I expect to win this pool. Starting in 6th, I expect the Ukraine to finish at the bottom of this pool. I think it can be a toss-up between them and the Finnish. But in that head-to-head match, I will take Finland. So Finland in 5th, the Ukraine in 6th. And then, like I mentioned, I predict Sweden to make it out of this pool in 4th place. Isabelle Haak's going to have to kind of be a hero for the Swedish national team, but she can, and I think she will. Followed in 3rd place by Romania. I expect the host to play well enough to qualify for the round of 16. And then it comes down to the top 2, I think, in everyone's opinion. But I will go along with recent history and pick the Netherlands to finish 2nd and Turkey to finish 1st. Those matches are going to be really good between those top 4. But I think the Turkish women with so much experience, talent top to bottom, a little bit of youth, a little bit of experience in terms of the way their roster is constructed, just coming off a pretty good showing at the Olympics. I expect Turkey to win Pool D and make a very deep run for another podium finish at the European Championships. Okay, that's a lot of info. That'll about do it for Pool D. We've gone through all 24 teams in the tournament. We've picked all the pools. We've spotlit some matches, some players. Now there's nothing left to do but watch the tournament. So make very sure you're subscribed here to the CAV YouTube channel. Check out the website and all the other digital platforms for more on EuroVolley 2021. And if you're interested in watching some of the matches, if it's available in your country, check out EuroVolley.tv. A really nice promotion going on right now for a very good deal to watch every match of EuroVolley 2021 women's and men's. I highly recommend checking that out. Enjoy the volleyball, everyone. We will see you next time.